variety of measures and needs, and then not with the service delivery or other applications associated with that service delivery. Again, I understand enough.
Yeah, we totally use that. So you should spread.
Hello. So we're Team Everyone In. So we're going to show you an app that we designed. So just to give you a bit of background, we heard from Lisa at HomeSync how there are over 2,000 people sleeping rough in one night as a snapshot in the UK. The longer the people stay on the street, the harder it is to help them. So really our goal was to make sure that local authorities could identify and get to those people as quickly as possible. What they needed was really accurate information. So everyone in, here we go, lets anyone report the location of someone sleeping rough from their mobile phone. It's a mobile web app, and it lets, as I said, anyone, that could be the general public, public service, or a family or friend member, or even a homeless person themselves, actually locate themselves quite easily. So, splash screen, here we have the dynamic dashboard. So, this actually gives people a bit of an incentive, first of all, to understand why they might help somebody. Because we know there's going to be a national helpline, what we've also done is say, actually, you might just want to call. You might just want to straight away ring up, say, I want to help, and get in touch with someone. But obviously the idea for us is that you can click to tell us about someone. You're then able to report that. So what we're doing here is basically automatically finding that person's location. However, you might have spotted somebody whilst you're on the way out, and you might be somewhere very different. So you can actually overwrite that location with where you are now and get it to automatically find you again. You can report the number of people and the time you saw them, which we know is really important for local authorities and their partners to understand where they might be able to get to that person again. There's the option then to add more details. So if you want to, you can actually, if you'd had a conversation with that person, you could provide more detail. If that person was quite hard to find because their location wasn't just, somewhere obvious on the street, it could be around the back of garages or somewhere, then you can actually provide that extra information. But ultimately we wanted to keep everything on one screen so that it didn't feel laborious for anyone and they could just submit that information straight away. So, next screen. Okay, so the next screen that will come on from here was essentially once you've submitted, you get a thank you message. With that thank you message, what we can then do is pull in that data about where you are and therefore what service is available. So if you then want to directly give people information and say, hey, here are the services you can go and use right now, you can do that, or you can get involved. And the added extra that we wanted to do was also offer a playful way for people to perhaps give a donation, which Terence will talk about later. But now I want to hand over to Nico so you can see some of the live demo.
Okay, so after we've seen how a polished version of the app looked like, we're going to have a look at how we went on to implement a prototype just to get something working from end to end, which of course the design is not integrated, but if you get the two things together, you have the final app. So if we go to the website, we have the splash screen, and if I want to spot someone, I click on the spot link, and then I say I allow the location. So at the moment it defaults to Nairobi, but now it found where we actually are. So the location data, longitude, latitude filled in. The form is not exactly the same. I have to provide gender, number of people, time spotted, contact number. If you can fill this in. So what we used here is actually the Tarifa reporting structure, and that's what it says on the bottom, to use it for this special kind of workflow which this app can then provide. And the report has been submitted, and as mentioned before, you get an immediate feedback, thank you very much. And you can get some further options. But before I explain these, the question is what happens with the report. And if you can go to the admin panel. So what Tarifa brings in as a platform is then an admin page where you can look at your reports, sort your reports, and also have a workflow on your reports. So this shows actually the possible workflow for your reports. We get this new report in, the location, this is wrong, but the location coordinates are right. And then you actually can group your reports and say, okay, first of all, I verify this report, and then we have to change the titles and so on, but you then see the report going through the system and you say, okay, we tried to spot the person, maybe we didn't succeed, or we spotted the person, resolution, and then you can give possible feedback to the person providing you with the report. That is the report, and we can see, okay, that's the location filled in, and we can say, it's still with the wrong descriptions, but you can have different status of your report. If you can go back to the thank you page quickly. So the thank you page where we can have one small link to the project just before, where you can actually query the database to look for local services in the vicinity of where you made the report, and then also something I think you can explain now.
So the way the payment works, so this also works on mobile, so you can try it yourself. I'll tweak the link. Is that you get this slider? So how much would you like to give? And as you slide it along, you'll see the text change. And I think if we do it on here, you get some information. So it's not just you're donating £8; you're donating to get a vet to help with the dog, or 12 or 13 pounds, 14 pounds for healthcare, 15 pounds for a mobile phone. And then the link at the bottom goes to pay for it. So the way pay for it works is you don't need any credit cards, you don't need anything like that. It actually takes the money off your phone bill. So if you're a pay-as-you-go user, that just comes off your credit straight away. If you're a contract user, that just goes on your bill. And it's a simple one click and it's debited. You don't need to type in a long string of credit card numbers or bank details. It just goes straight like that. And then once you've gone through that, we just send you to a page where you can update your Twitter status or share to Facebook to say, hey, look, I've donated, this is a really good project, you should get involved as well. And I think that's... have we got one more thing? Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have the link, so to connect to the last team. If you click it, it queries the database.
Internet just gone.
Maybe we still make it, so it should now query the database depending on the location which you put in, longitude and latitude, and gives you a list of, here we are, of similar to before, addresses and emails and the service offered. So there's something, an emergency situation, you can directly contact one of these numbers.
Any questions?
I don't understand how you would determine the donation. Who would be the recipient of the donation? If you take Westminster, for example, there are literally a dozen key, quite separate homeless charitable organisations.
Indeed,
The City Council is the commissioner, and I'm sure they wouldn't want to give any funding to us. If you're talking Homeless Link, they're national, and so it doesn't go local.
Yeah, we definitely want it local. We didn't have a list of all the different local charities, but the idea would be that you could have a drop down which might say charities operating in this area are St Mungo's and this and that and the other. So at the moment this is just conceptual to say this is how much you could donate to a specific charity, but it could go...
I just want to make a political point with a small and that is that there are a multitude of agencies, for example, operating in Westminster, some of whom add to the problem and don't offer solutions. They would legitimately have a claim to be being on that list. And I know that some of my colleagues here would say they shouldn't be supported to offer a service.
One of the things to say is that the list wouldn't be that big list. We would just have one clear thing for the usually kind of the outreach service for that area. So if we were talking about an area, if we were talking about Liverpool, for example, and someone reported a rough sleeper in Liverpool, we wouldn't list all the services in Liverpool. We'd have a clear route. So it's very clear. This is what a rough sleeper will expect in that area. So it'll be much, much clearer. And I think we'd have to have a look at kind of having a clear route through, so that we've got kind of one.
I'm just wondering why you want it in the first place.
Well, you were saying that you didn't have much money and that lots of the services would
No,
be
but
extremely
I think they're but you could say, you could get somebody like British Telecom who would say every response that goes in will get a donation of X amount.
Yeah, you could do. We
and
could
then you
partner
cut
with.
all that other stuff out.
Yes, we could partner with
Maybe
someone.
something to follow up afterwards.
Yeah,
definitely.
Could go to charities that operate outreach teams. For
Oh, yeah, I mean,
instance. It's
we're
an
not
outreach.
committed to any one specific one here. It's just an
No,
idea.
I just think it's
But
really
some Mondays would be good.
Sold to the gentleman in the back.
But presumably the point is, if there's someone who is engaged enough to want to be spotting people on the street and participating in that process, then they are also probably the more likely givers to homeless need. And so even if you were able to aggregate that in a fund, and then you say, in a given council area, you'll divvy that up against whoever the organizations are. It's the principle of someone's helping you identify the need, and you're also then leveraging that to try and get funding to support the need locally.
It might be that we also identify volunteer opportunities for people as well, because if someone's taken that first step to report something, they might actually want to be a volunteer in a service as well.
Yeah, I'm
Could be
going to have
changed
to
to-
move you on
Sorry.
because it's 22 and we need to be out here by 7.
Can I just very quickly feed one question? One comment on this. Not all people phoning in are helpful. They are absolutely not. And so you need to be able to cater for that as well.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, guys working on text messaging, thank you guys. We did the